Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. In today's video, y'all, we're going to show y'all exactly how we do our country ham. The video is going to take you from the point when we are curing the ham the first day, salting it down and everything, to hanging the hams, all the way to what they look like a year later. Our country hams are not like the hams from the store. A lot of that store-bought stuff nowadays is cured in about 30 days. Like I said, ours hangs for about a year. After a lot of consideration, Andy and I talked about a secret recipe versus a sacred recipe. Our country ham recipe is a very sacred recipe that has been passed down for many generations. Our family's been curing hams like we're going to show you today for the last 100 years, probably longer than that. And I just hope that you'll remember them if you try this out. Anyways, guys, y'all enjoy the video.
So our ham weighed, what was it, 47 pounds?
Yeah.
47-pound ham here. So curing a ham, the most important thing is the amount of salt you've got. Right here is 2 cups of salt. So our recipe calls for a cup for every 20 pounds of meat. Right there is enough to do a 40-pound ham. Having a little more salt is better than not having enough. I'm just going to go ahead and put me another cup in that. And that's actually enough to do a 60-pound ham. And we'll just have some excess salt in there. All right. So that's 3 cups of salt for a 47-pound ham. But like I said, that should be enough to do a 60-pound ham. All right, next thing we're going to do is add some brown sugar. Now we've decided to cut back on the amount of sugar we're using this time because, well, we just decided to. So what I'm going to do is go right about 2 cups of this. Let's put a little bit more. All right, so that right there is right at 2 cups of sugar. So I'm going to mix everything up, get all the clumps out of it, get everything crushed up real good. It helps to have a big, nice bowl like this right here, just so you don't spill it out all over while you're mixing it up. Then we're going to add some black pepper to it. This will be to keep the bugs out of it, because this ham is going to hang. Once it's going to lay here till springtime, and then in the spring it's going into the tobacco barn to hang. So this will kind of help keep bugs or anything like that from getting to it. Plus it also adds a little bit of flavor. Something I've been wanting to try is adding some crushed red pepper to our mixture. I've never done this before, but last year's ham video, we had a lot of people say that their mom and daddies used to add crushed red pepper to the mixture. So I'm going to try it. So I don't know how much to put in there. You think that's enough or a little more?
I'll throw it to it.
Throw it to it? All right. So we're going to mix that up in there too.
I like the taste of red pepper.
Well, this, like I said, this is something totally new for me. I've never put crushed red pepper in this mixture before, so I'm pretty excited, but we're going to have to mark on the paper when we wrap
Which one it is,
that this has got the red pepper in it, just so we can see if it made a difference. Mm-hmm. We may not even taste a difference, but I want to try it. All right, so I've already got a piece of butcher paper cut, and I've got it long enough that once I'm going to be able to lay my ham up on here and take this paper and wrap all around that ham. So first, I'm going to sprinkle me a little bit out. Then we'll go get our ham and lay it down. Okay, so first I want to lay it with the meat side down. I've got my skin side up. We do scald our hogs, so it does still have the skin on it. And I'm going to put my hock towards me. So we're going to take our mixture and cover all this backside right here. Get us a good coat all over the skin. Then I'm going to flip it over. And this is the way it's going to stay, with the skin side laying down. And we're just going to rub our mixture in every little nook and cranny we can find. We're going to cram it up in the hock right here on the end. And then another important thing to keep in a ham is you want it trimmed up nice and pretty and round. That just helps. You don't want any flabby meat hanging off of it. You want everything to be tight and neat, because any of that flabby meat will, by the time this thing's cured, it won't really be any good. So you can get all those trimmings off and put those in your sausage. Now sometimes, depending on how the ham was cut out, there's a hole that ends up being in the ham right about in here. The way we cut them out of the hog, you don't have that hole. But if you do have that hole, you want to cram salt down in that too. Once again, like I said, just want to make sure you get it crammed all up in that hock right there the best you can, because it's going to draw in salt through that. It'll actually pull salt up through this, up into that joint that's right here in the middle. We're going to pour all that out on there. Going to try to spread it out the best we can. Have it all nice and piled up on top. Everything keeps falling off of it. All right, that's a pretty piece of meat laying there, ain't it? I tell you what, it ain't nothing no more pretty than a country ham. I mean, this right here is my favorite piece of meat that comes from a hog. Once you've got it cured, there ain't no better eating. So here's where curing differentiates from some people to the other people. We wrap ours in this brown paper here. Some people don't. Some people will leave it laying out just like that right there until springtime. And then you would hang it in your white cotton sacks. But we wrap ours. I like wrapping them better because it holds all this together, and all that salt and everything is pulled up tight against that ham. Once again, though, this is something that can be different between families or whatever. I mean, some people, I know lots of people who don't wrap their hams, but that's just the way we do it. So we're going to wrap it just like a Christmas present here. And I've never been good at doing this. Can you hold that piece right there? So we're using a string to wrap it with to hold this paper on there. That's something funny, Megan. There's this ball of string right here was Grandpa's ball of string. That's how long this ball of string's been in here. And there's no telling how many hams it's wrapped. Well, I am. I wouldn't want to do it, but I've seen people, I mean, I've not seen it. I've heard tell of people wrapping hams in newspaper. I wouldn't want to do it because of the ink on the newspaper. But I've seen people, or heard tell of people doing it in newspaper. And like I said, in my opinion, the reason we wrap them is just because it helps hold everything together. Helps hold all that salt and sugar right there up against it. Cayenne pepper. Yep. And this ham right here will lay just like that right there. These hams need to be laying somewhere where you can have some drainage, because they will start to drain out from around the bottom here as the moisture starts getting pulled out. You know, the salt's doing its work, drawing the water out of the meat, and so they will start to drain. If you were to do this somewhere else and, you know, a week down the road, you're like, oh my goodness, we've got a mess here. Well, just be prepared. There is going to be some drainage come out of that ham, but that's a good thing. You want that drainage. You've got to have that drainage for the ham to do what it's got to do, because pretty much it's drawing the water and the moisture out of that meat. And that's how it gets cured. It's drawing the moisture and everything out of it. So the building that we're in here is a tobacco pack house. It used to be a tobacco pack house and has since been just used for curing meats. This is basically just a regular old framed out building with 10 sides on it. There's nothing fancy here. The secret is we do this in the wintertime. So inside this building right now is pretty much like a big refrigerator. Mother Nature keeps it cool for us. So that's the key to doing this curing, is you do it in the late fall to early winter, because you use Mother Nature's cool temperatures to help keep your meat cool. This building has actually been used to cure hams since my daddy was a little kid. Daddy's told me stories of him and his daddy in here curing hams. You know, and he's this little bitty fella, probably younger than Jacob right now. This ain't like we're trying anything out here. This building works for curing hams. And I mean, what I'm trying to say is, this is basically an outbuilding. There's nothing fancy at all about the way this building's done. It's just a framed out building that pretty much keeps the weather off of our meat. You could not cure a ham in the early spring, summer, or like even early fall, because that salt don't have time to take down into the meat before your meat would spoil. And a lot of people have asked us about how about using a cooler to cure your ham. And honestly, that's something I don't have experience with, so I don't know the answer to that. But I almost would want to say that it wouldn't work, because inside of a cooler, I feel like it would be too humid. And humidity does affect curing meat. But honestly, y'all, that's beyond my knowledge, so I can't answer that question. All I can say is this building right here works. I mean, you could literally do this in a garage if you wanted to of your house, as long as it's not a heated garage. You know, as long as it's cold inside the garage, just like, you know, it would be outside. If it turns out to be like warm and humid and these things start draining really bad, we may come in here and sort of move them around just so they can kind of get some air underneath of them. But other than that, she'll be right there till, let's see, right now it's December. It'll lay there till, well, we usually go for when the sap starts rising in the trees. That's usually a good sign that it's time to hang your hams. And that usually falls for us, what, like late March, something like that. So, you know, that's something you keep your eye out for. When you start noticing that the sap's rising in the trees, you know it's time to get your hams hung. So now they're going into the barn. We use that little rope to hang them up, just like that. All right, got it? Look at there. Come on. Push it. All right. You've been doing this since you was a youngin'. So there they are, hanging in the barn. Tobacco sticks running across there, and that tin will sort of help anything that may fall, shelter them from it. I was just asking Daddy And he said they've been hanging them in this barn since he was a little kid. But so these will hang here now till, well, probably for at least 6 months at the at the earliest. And then some of them will probably hang here till December or January. Well, now I'm gonna get down some hams that we've hung last spring, or this past spring. We'll put a link to the video of hanging those. But we've got them in a tobacco barn here. We're gonna pull these down, take them back home, get them cleaned up, and slice them. Boy, they've shrunk since we hung them up here, ain't they?
You lose 10, 12 pounds.
Like unwrapping Christmas.
You never know what you're gonna get.
That's right. I guess to somebody that doesn't know no better, that's probably the nastiest looking thing they ever seen right there. That ham was cured 12/1 of 23. Look at that, y'all. Now you see all that mold there. That's what you want to see. That mold helps out with the curing.
That's part of the process.
That's part of the process.
And these hams, usually, you know, like if they went bad, you can smell them.
Yeah, and that is a possibility to have one go bad.
But this one, I mean,
This one so far smells like
honestly,
it's
they
supposed
don't
to.
really have that much of a smell, I don't think. They smell like the salt. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so you can see where he's already trimmed a little bit, that good looking meat that's right there.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty.
And that layer right there is pretty tough, ain't it?
Yes. Yeah, all that right there is tough. Most of that you see right there, that's all just the pepper that we put on there when we cured it. All of the salt at this point, for the most part, is done dissolved and went into the ham. It's amazing how that meat looks just right below the surface.
Yep.
Pretty, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
This right here is the tedious, time-consuming part, though. Cleaning everything up.
Yeah, you just want to trim that hard outside layer.
Yeah, that right there is hard as a rock.
And you can see how much it's drawed up by how much. Y'all remember when we...
that was level.
You remember when we cured them, you could see that bone right there. And that's how much it's drawed up in a year. How much that bone's sticking out.
Well, this ham weighs 30 pounds now, and it probably means it's probably, what, 45 pounds?
They lose anywhere from 10 to 12%.
So anywhere from 10 to 12% is what you lose in weight. Got me a good bite right there. Look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Got me a good lick. That's gonna be pretty under there too. Look at that.
Yeah, see, nothing about it looks rotten at all.
Got that pretty red color.
Yep. Because I think some people see this outside and they're just totally grossed out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know people who have bought people country hams for Christmas, and they throw them away because they think they're bad when they unwrap them.
Yep.
And this thing is definitely not bad.
No.
You throw away gold, you throw away that right there.
That one slice out. You got it?
Maybe. Ain't that pretty? Lord have mercy. Look at that pretty meat.
Yep. It's beautiful.
It is.
So also on the outer layers of the ham, once you get down into the red meat, it's kind of like jerky, and you can eat it just raw, and it is the best thing ever.
That's just the very outside layer, though.
Oh my gosh.
Is that good? I ain't got brave enough to eat it yet.
That's way better than any beef jerky or anything you'll ever eat. It is great. I bet it'll make a heck of a sandwich.
It probably would. You can see what she's talking about. It's this stuff right here. It's cured like beef jerky. But once you get down in there,
It's more raw.
I'd just rather have it fried in a pan.
Because almost what the texture reminds you of is like deli ham.
Really?
Mixed with beef jerky.
Is it salty?
Not as salty as the middle of that thing when you go to fry it.
Aw, you crazy.
I'm serious.
That dark piece right there.
what better way to wrap up this video than to try us a piece of good old country ham. So I'm going to show y'all how I prepare it to cook. We just got back from slicing this. Now this right here I'm going to be cutting up for biscuits, so it's going to be a little bit different. But anytime you do fresh ham, you're going to have that big fat layer. It's up to you if you cut that off before you package it. We will vacuum seal all this and put it in the freezer. But I always just leave that on and cut it off before I cook the ham. Makes a good pot of beans. And, well, I just have ready-made side meat when I just keep that. So, you want to trim that fat layer off.
And I know somebody's probably going to ask, well, if it's cured, why are you going to put it in a freezer? And that just preserves it even longer.
Well, and plus, if you left it like this, it would just dry out.
It'll do that too.
It's already sliced.
So I asked Daddy while we were down there, I'm like, what did y'all do when you were a kid, you know, as far as keeping these hams? And he said that they would just slice a little bit off as they wanted it, you know, as they ate it. And he said we ate it every day. So a ham didn't last long. And once you slice into that thing, you cut into that protective layer on the outside of the ham. And so at that point, you can, you know, it can start to go bad if it's not kept in a cool spot. So he said they would keep it in the basement of their house where it was cool. And they would go down every morning and slice some off that they would eat for breakfast. And keep it that way. But they were using it up fast. That's just something that I wanted to throw out there, that once you cut into it, you start to lose that shelf-stableness, I guess you would say.
Well, what it
has to be kept in a cool spot.
Yeah, and it dries back up. Wherever they cut that slice off, it would dry back up.
And seal off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But doing it this way, it's not going to do that.
If we left this laying out in a cool spot at room temperature, this already sliced ham, it would dry up to nothing. Because the salt content is still there.
Right.
And it would just dry up to nothing. Pretty much. It's my understanding anyway. I ain't never tried it. So what I've done now is I've just cut around. This one's got a couple of bones in it actually. And I've cut around some of that bone. I'll show you on this piece here. And I'll get the rest of that meat off. Or what you can do, another thing I like to do, is you can just cut that in half. And there you go. Back to the beans. You talking about good beans. That right there is what makes them.
That's right.
But I just take me right there. And I'll just cut that in half. Because like I said, these are going on biscuits. So I make me little biscuit pieces. There we go. That'll be enough for 6 little biscuits. So I think I probably ought to do me one more piece, don't you?
Probably.
Alright, so really all you're doing with country ham, you're warming it up. I like to get a little bit brown on each side, but I mean, it don't cook but a few minutes. It's very, very, very easy to cook. And I know a lot of people say they don't like country ham because it's so salty. Store-bought country ham is extremely salty. Don't you think so?
Yeah. Because a store-bought country ham is cured in like 30 days.
Yep.
Where this has took pretty much a year to cure.
But it's still salty. It still has a salty taste, but I can't eat store-bought country ham. Like, I can't. It turns my mouth inside out. But this right here, I mean, it's like a delicacy. I don't even know how to explain it. If you've never had it, if you can get your hands on some, or you can make your own, you have means to make your own, I highly recommend it. This is not pink. It's not really that bright pink color.
Right. It's a totally different color than store-bought.
Yeah. And if you're concerned, like I said earlier, if you're concerned about your ham being bad, let me tell you right now, I promise you will know. And it does happen. It happens to the best of us. We've been curing hams all of our lives. And, you know, you occasionally lose one. If if you don't smell something that smells just super weird, like smelly, then your ham...
It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Like she said, if you start cleaning on one, you can smell it as soon as you pull it out of the sack.
Yeah.
If it's bad. Now it'll look good on the outside. It'll look just like those did. But when you go to cut into it, you really can't smell it. And so I mean, it's pretty obvious if you have a ham that goes bad.
It don't even exactly stink. It smells so weird.
It almost smells sweet in a way.
It's a weird smell.
It is. It's different.
There we go. I can get me 2 pieces out of that one.
And I've never seen one like completely rotten or anything like that.
Just have bad
It's
spots.
just almost like you got a bad spot. And it's usually, if you have a bad spot in your ham, it's around that hip joint. That's usually where they go bad at. If you ever have one go bad, and you know, like I said, it happens.
It happens to the best of us.
So if you try to cure a country ham and you fail, just know that it happens to everybody, and don't give up. You can try it again.
Yep. Well, we'll give this a little flip here. Don't that look good?
It does. Smells good too.
See how it turns a little bit brown like that? That's all I'm looking for. Let's brown it a little bit.
You basically just want to heat it up.
Yeah.
Well, you ready for your taste test?
Yep.
So all the ham that you just seen us fry up is on these biscuits here in this pan, ready for in the morning. But we're going to do a little taste test just to make sure it all tastes like it's supposed to.
That's right. Oh, you can put the whole thing in your mouth.
Well, yeah.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Very good.
And
Very, okay. You just can't beat it. And there's nothing that I can say to say this is what it tastes like
yeah, there ain't nothing to compare it to.
explain it to somebody.
Now, depending on your likes of salt or not, you might think it's salty. And if you do, you can simply just wash it off in the sink or let them soak.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll draw some of the saltiness out of it. But y'all, a home cured country ham is tender. It's got a different texture than the store-bought country hams. And it's like eating.
It's so good. It's
It's
just
almost
so
like
good.
candy. It's one of my favorite pieces of a hog. I mean, a country ham is probably my favorite piece of pork there is. So,
Mine is bacon and ham.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that bacon, but if I had to have one or the other, it would be country ham. But, anyways, y'all, I would say if you've ever been curious and wanted to try to cure your own country ham, by all means, give it a shot if you've got the ability to do it.
Go for it.
If you aren't able to cure your own, then see if you can track down somebody around you or somewhere or another that can do it too. I mean, that might have one and give it a try. And I know somebody's probably going to ask, because we actually get emails all the time. We don't sell any of our hams. They're all for our personal consumption and friends and family. Another question that will come up probably in this video is whether we smoke them or not. And that's something we've never done. All of our curing process goes through with the salting and the aging and all that. We don't smoke our country hams.
And for whatever reason, people in our little section of the world really never have.
Well, it could be because of the climate.
Yeah.
It's cooler here for the most part than other sections of the United States. And so maybe they just kept better. They kept and didn't need to be smoked.
Right.
Because I can't say that I've ever seen a person in our area that even had like a legit smokehouse until recently. People started building them. But, that's just my observation of it all.
Well, and a lot of times you go in these little museums and stuff, and what they call a smokehouse is really not
a meat house.
It's a meat house. Yeah.
And that's what we always called the smokehouse for a long time. I mean, it's really a meat house, and it's just where you pack your meat up.
Yeah.
Salted it down, kind of like what we do with our pack house now. And that's just our meat house. But they're not smoked, and I know people all over do different techniques, and
this is just the way. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And this is the way we do it.
Yep. And I don't know anything about the smoking process of a country ham, but I can tell you that these aren't smoked, and they are delicious.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So,
but anyways, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. Hope you might have learned a little something. Go out and give it a try. You don't know till you try. That's the best way to learn. And anyways, till we see y'all on the next one.
y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.